so glad to have you. We're here at the Georgetown Library on Cleveland Street, 405 Cleveland. So stop by and visit us. But today you can visit us virtually, and we have a very special guest, Ervin BluePrint Parker. And he's going to spend some time with us today, and then he's going to come back for more, spend a couple more sessions with us. So this is just kind of a taste to get us started today, and we're going to get to know Ervin BluePrint Parker. The youngest of 9 children, Ervin BluePrint Parker was born and raised right here in Georgetown County. He was a standout high school football recruit who was wanted by major programs like Clemson, South Carolina, and Pittsburgh, although he ultimately chose to stay close to home and attended South Carolina State University. Under legendary Bulldogs coach Willie Jeffries, Parker earned a starting role as a freshman defensive end. He would switch positions to linebacker and go on to become an All-American as a junior and as a senior. He was awarded the MVP in the Gold Bowl in Richmond, Virginia, and graduated from SC State with a degree in industrial engineering. Parker was then drafted by the Buffalo Bills in 1980 and would play in the National Football League for 9 seasons, starting with the Bills, then moving to San Diego to play for the Chargers, and finally finishing up with the Seattle Seahawks. He also helped bring the first professional football game to Hong Kong in 1989. After retiring from pro football, BluePrint Parker eventually came back home to his earliest stamping grounds here in Georgetown County, where he founded the BluePrint Leadership Academy and serves as the Academy's president. So welcome, and thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you for having me, and thanks for that introduction.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
I think around the county, I'm not sure you're a man who needs no introduction. I think that's the way to put it. You need no introduction, but we gave you one anyway.
I appreciate it.
In fact, I was mentioning that you were coming in to our associate director, Trudy Bazemore, and I called you Ervin Parker, your given name first, and she said, she kind of looked at me, and then I said, BluePrint Parker. And she said, oh, yes, of course, yeah. So,
the BluePrint. The BluePrint is actually well known.
So, can you start us off today a little bit by telling us about your upbringing here in Georgetown County?
Well, being born out in Choppy, it's being the youngest of 9. I have 7 sisters and 1 brother. And as you would call it, the rural community. I grew up out there where actually there's 2 stop signs. One to keep you from going into the cemetery, and one to keep you from going into a big oak tree. So my life growing up out there in the rural community, as they call it, Choppy, was rough. I growing up, I learned how to crop tobacco. A lot of people don't know about that these days in time, and pick cotton. And it was so interesting because when I was in the 10th grade, I had the opportunity to go to New York, and my father told me, he says, if you want to go to New York, you're going to have to go and work to get a ticket, a bus ticket, and you're going to get a round-trip ticket because you're definitely coming back. So I went and got a job cropping tobacco. And I cropped tobacco for about 2 weeks, saved enough money, and got a round-trip Greyhound ticket to the Bronx, New York. And that's when I was coming off going from the 9th grade to the 10th grade, which in the 9th grade, I went out for the football team. And of course, if you've heard of that movie, The Water Boy, I'm the original Water Boy because they made me the Water Boy. I wasn't good enough to make the team. And Coach Spears says to me, he says, well, I need 2 water boys. Why don't you be a water boy? And I said, most people would have took it as a negative, but I said, this gives me an opportunity to be out here with the guys and to learn, more, and I'd be able to work out in a weight room, which we didn't have that much of a weight room. But I thought that would be an opportunity. So I went along with it, and that was one of the changing points in my life. Because if I'd have went the other way, who knows where I would be at right now? So I got a chance to go to New York after saving a couple of dollars and going up there and working in one of the largest market on the East Coast. That's called Hunts Point Market. I worked in unload produce trucks. Went to work on Sunday night, worked from 11 until 7. And then at 7 o'clock, the big Boston would come in with their Mercedes and Ferraris and all kinds of different cars. And I would get the big boss's car and they want me to wash it. And I would go and cut a fire hydrant on and wash their cars and drive around for a little while. So that's how I got started, you know, and eating produce, everything I unload at Hunts Point Market, I was eating some of it. So if it was cantaloupe, I'm eating cantaloupe. If it's grape, I'm eating grapes. So you figured I got started working like about 11:15. I would work until about probably 2:15. I would take a break. But during that time, I'd be eating fruits, you know, and I put on about 20-something pounds, grew about 3 inches in about 2.5, 3 months.
Wow. Yeah, so that, and even your background before that, there's a lot there, but I didn't know you crop tobacco and
oh yeah,
cotton, and you know, people often look down their noses. They, you know, rural is backwards, and you know, people are too country. They have that tendency to do that. But what do you think that gave you? What did you learn? Anything that kind of carried you forward from doing those working in the fields?
Well, you know, first of all, for a person to really understand what that's really about, you would have to have done that. Mm-hmm. Because you're talking about, it's like we were talking earlier about the heat and the humidity. And you're talking about cropping tobacco, you're talking about 100 degrees plus, the humidity. so, and then you got to deal with the rattlesnakes, because you know, I mean, one day I was cropping and all of a sudden I heard something like, it's a rattlesnake, you know, underneath, they're trying to find a cool spot underneath the leaves. So it built discipline, self-esteem, and to work through adversity, because I was trying to move forward. And, you know, if I want to go to New York, my daddy told me straight up, you go out and you crop tobacco and get a ticket and get a round trip ticket. So it wasn't like you get a one-way ticket because I'm planning to go up there and work and then buy a ticket when it's time to come back. No. You got to get a round trip ticket. Yeah. So I think it really helped me to come from one spot and to work through adversity situation. Because when I mean rural, it was rural. I mean, we had what you call an outhouse. We didn't have no running water. Mm-hmm. We had a pump and a well. So, and every morning my mom would call me about 5:30 in the morning. And she would say to me, she called me Bub. She said, Bub, get up and make fire for mama. So we had this wood heater. And I would have to get up, house cold in the wintertime, and make fire for my mom for when she get up, the house is, you know, is warmer. And then I'd go back to bed. And then I would get up a little later and she'd have breakfast fixed. Every morning that I grew up, for 17 years, there was what you call a hot meal for breakfast. We didn't eat cereals and none of that kind of stuff. My mama didn't believe in that.
And yeah, that discipline and that having to overcome adversity, the heat, the humidity, working in the fields, but also that daily routine that getting up at 5 a.m., making the fire, you were in charge, and you had to do that every day.
Yep.
I mean, that, you know, once you got to New York, you know.
Oh, I was living in paradise.
Yeah, that's no problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and having a hot meal, you know, food is kind of seems like a theme that runs through here. That, you know, you weren't eating processed stuff all off the shelves, you know, sugary cereal and all that.
Oh no.
It was real stuff. So you were getting good meals, even though it was a lot of hard work going into it, and it was rough. But you got a good hot meal. You started the day kind of the right way, and And then that good produce,
Oh yeah,
you're working for it, but
you better believe
you
it.
enjoy it.
Well, when I look at my sisters and brother, my mom and dad didn't get a chance to get an education. They had to go work. Mm-hmm. They had to go work in the fields, pick cotton, crop tobacco. Like my dad says to me, he says, I'm going to make sure that all of my sons and daughters, all of my kids get an education. Mm-hmm. He said, because I didn't have a chance to get an education. He says, I went to school and I went straight through school. He said, I walked in through the back door and walked down the halls and looked in the classrooms, and I came out the door on the other side. And he said, but if you would have met my dad, you'd have never known that he was not educated. He was a brilliant, self-taught, self-learned. When opportunities came in front of him, he took advantage of it. And then I think, too, it was hard for him because he never got a chance to meet his dad. His dad left when his mama was pregnant with him. So he felt abandoned. So that's one of the reasons family was so important to him. Wow. And that was the way he raised us. And when I look at all of my sisters and my brothers, everybody went and got a career, and it was something that they really wanted to do.
Yeah. And that a big family, you had 7 older sisters and 1 older brother. That's,
Yeah.
And your dad.
Tell me about it.
But some of that explained by your dad. Not having that family connection maybe growing up, and then so he made a family connection, but you had that in full. Maybe sometimes it might have felt like too much family connection sometimes.
Yeah.
All those, but your parents really gave you opportunities and made sure that you would have those opportunities if you worked hard for them.
Very disciplined, and on Sundays, I go to Sunday school and church. Yeah. And that's automatic, and we grew up in the church, and my daddy and mom, my dad, he wasn't the church goer, but he was very supportive of us going to Sunday school and church. And the reason that he wasn't the church goer, because he was working at the International Paper Company, which he worked there for 30-something years. And the pastors and the deacon in the church were people that he knew personally because they worked together. And he says, I'm not going to hear him preach on Sunday, and he's been drinking moonshine all week. So he would get up every morning, and he would go outside, and he would have his session with Jesus Christ. He would get up every morning, unless he had already left, went to work. But he always had his relationship with God. And I never saw my dad in the church until he was laying up there when he died. He was very strong-willed and strong-minded, where he was just like, listen, he would take my mom there, he would take us there. My dad would pay his tithes and offering and all of that. But he goes, I'm not listening to so-and-so up here, and he's chasing behind somebody's wife, and he's drunk all week, and I'm going to listen to him in a day. No, I'm not listening to him. And that's the way he was. And we didn't look at him differently because that's the way he was. Those were his beliefs.
We're in the library here. There's a great old, she's from up north a ways, but Emily Dickinson, the poet, she came from this very heavy Puritan family, mm-hmm. So they all would go to church. She would stay home, though, and she wrote a poem, though. Some keep the Sabbath going to church, some keep it staying home. And she talked about just, enjoying nature, and that was her, she kind of got her spiritual connection with God out in nature, and she didn't need to be in that church setting necessarily.
Right.
So it sounded like your dad kind of had that.
Yeah, and before he died, he repented and gave himself to Jesus Christ, and I know that he's in heaven hanging out with my mom, and because he was a loving, caring person. That's one thing about him. He was, it wasn't like he was just take care of us as a family, but he was like he had a sister, he had 2 sisters, and he was like the caregiver. He was always taking care of people. That was the thing. He feels, like my mama says, you need to stop buying stuff for everybody. Da 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 da. He goes, hey, God bless us, and he was like, what they call Red Riding Hood,
Robin Hood.
Robin Hood.
Yes.
Yeah, because he was lending people money, buying, and you know another thing what happened too. I don't know if I said this, but we had hogs, cow, and I had to feed those animals. And then when I went out to the team, when I made the team in the 10th grade, my dad didn't want me playing football. Because he says, you got to come home and do your work. You got to plow that field. We had a mule, okay? So I know what it's like to feed the hog, feed the chicken, cow, and a mule. And then we had a bull, which almost killed my brother. So my dad said, he comes home, he says, I think I'm gonna have to take that bull to the market. I said, well, Daddy, why are you gonna take my bull? Because I called him, it was my bull, you know? And he said, if I don't take this bull to the market, it's gonna kill your brother. Because my brother came home every evening after he changed clothes, he tried to break that bull, like in the rodeos. I mean, he was determined to break that bull. And that bull dragged him and throw him off and he got scars right now from that bull. So my dad said, you know, I'm taking that bull to the market before he killed my son. So, you know, I cried when he took my bull, man. You know, that was my bull.
Yeah, it sounds like your brother didn't listen to the old adage, mess with the bull, get the horns.
My brother, he was determined to break that bull. That's the best thing my daddy did. I was so happy that I was going to lose my bull, but I was happy that he took the bull because my brother, 5 days a week, he tried to break that bull.
Well, I mean, so rough life, discipline, but also, you know, a good, strong foundation.
Oh, yeah.
That's what we're hearing.
Never quit a job, never quit nothing, and never started nothing that you didn't give your all to. And that's one. I mean, all of my sisters and brothers are this. We was kind of like we all programmed because we're not going to start nothing unless you're going to give 110%. We're going to start unless we finish it. You know, and that's the way we were raised, and that's the way my mom and daddy raised us, you know, and you start something, you finish it, and you don't just, you do the best you can.
So you mentioned that you were the original water boy.
Yeah.
So that's the, you know, position, the role you were given by the coach in ninth grade. So you did that, you didn't quit. You kept at it, and then you ate all that produce all summer, worked all summer long, and then up in New York, in the Bronx.
Yeah, in the Bronx, New York.
Had the plan to come back, though, had the round trip ticket. You came back, and how much weight and size and height did you gain?
I probably grew about 22 to 23 pounds of muscle, and I grew about 3 inches. Yeah. I came back, I was like 190, about 6'1" and a half.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were no longer needed as the water boy.
The water boy and the wimp.
Yeah.
You know, because it's amazing, but I wasn't big enough in the 9th grade to make the team. That's, you know, and coach said, you need to put on a little weight and grow a little bit. And then the best thing happened to going to work, because my brother, he was a truck driver, and that's what he wanted to do. So basically, I was working at a place that he was a truck driver for.
Okay.
So he worked in the day and I worked in the night. So I jump on the bus, ride the bus to Hunts Point Market, and going up in that market, and we were unloading them truck all night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Building muscle and eating well, and
it was fun though. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
And so you grew. You got on the team, the football team, and then you know, we say it's all history from there. But it didn't necessarily all come easily from there.
Oh no, it was basically. Now I'm back, and I'm going. I went out for the team. I made the team, and I'm starting, and I've got an attitude. I'm thinking I went to New York for the summer. Well, I got it going on. I'm cool, you know. Got some fancy clothes from the Lancer Street in New York, and so anyway, the Coach Spears says to me, he says, "You got an attitude. and you got to get your attitude right. Otherwise, you're not going to be nothing. He didn't say it like that. He told me another phase. So, a couple of days went by. I'm still got this attitude because I've been in New York all summer. You know, I'm cool. You know, I'm growing 3 inches, 200. I was about 20-something pounds. I'm buff, man. So, one day after practice, he told me, he said, I need to talk to you. So I go in his office. As soon as I walk in the office, he grabs me and throws me up against the wall. He says, I told you you have an attitude, and you're not going to be nothing unless you get your attitude together. And I am taking you home right now to your dad because I'm not going to look at you just piss your life away. So anyway, he takes me home to my dad. And I'm saying, Coach, don't take me to my dad. Please, whatever you do, I'll get myself together. When I got home, and he pulled up in my yard, and my dad came out of the front door. And my dad says, how you doing, Mr. Spears? Spears said, I am doing okay, but we've got a situation. That, you know. And my dad said, what do you mean a situation? He says, Ervin has an attitude. My dad didn't even know what attitude meant. I'm serious. He's like, attitude? What do you mean an attitude? What are you talking about? Well, he's not listening and doing the things that he needs to do. And my dad looked at me and says, he's not doing what? I said, Dad, if I had an attitude, I left it at the schoolhouse. And I promise you, I'll never go get it. I will never go get it. He said, you got an attitude? I didn't raise you to have no attitude. Well, I beat your appetite out. That was his phrase, I will beat your appetite out. I said, Dad, you ain't gonna worry about beating my appetite out because, Mr. Spears, I promise you, you ain't gonna have no more problem out of me. And then he says, because he has a chance to go on to do something at another level. But if he doesn't focus and get his, attitude straightened out, he's not gonna make it. Well, my dad said, I promise you, if you ever see that attitude come back in him, you let me know. And I'll beat his appetite out. So during them days, if the police was coming because you got a whipping, everybody would have been locked up. The whole neighborhood would have been locked up. Because they was different in them days. So I went on and changed my attitude and was very disciplined. And then I changed my major. Because at that time I realized that if I'm going to college, I cannot major in brick masonry, which is what I wanted to be, a brick mason and build houses and stuff. So I went and met with Ms. Barkus, which was the guidance counsel. And I said, Ms. Barkus, I want to change my major because I want to go to college. And she says, are you sure you want to go to college? Are you going to commit to going to college? Because you got your work cut out for you. I said, yes, ma'am, I want to go to college. She said, well, we got to go over here and talk to Mrs. Smith. And she was Coach Smith's wife, and she was head of the business department. Because if that's what you say you want to major in is business, then you got a lot of work. So got over to Ms. Smith. She was in the teacher's hall and on break. And she went, Mrs. Barkus went in, the guidance counsel went in and brought her out. And she says, how you doing, Ervin? Because she known my sisters, because that's one thing when you got older sisters. Anyway, so she says, so Ms. Barkus tell me you want to go to college and you want to major in business. I said, yes, ma'am. She said, now listen, you're going to be interrupting my lunch breaks because I'm about to come in here and spend time with you. And so if you totally committed to this, now I will help you. I said, well, Ms. Smith, I am totally committed, and whatever you could do for me, I'd be gladly appreciate. Whatever you want me to do, that's what I do. So my lunch breaks all of a sudden went out the window. I'd go over there and get my food, and I had to bring it back over there, and she'd give me like 5 or 6 minutes to eat it while she was in the teachers union. And when she come out, I had to be done eating and ready to do some work. And 4 days a week. So, that was a lot of discipline because all of a sudden my buddies would tell me, oh, you can't get out of high school, man. You can't major in no business. You ain't smart enough. You're lucky if you get out of high school. So naturally I had to get rid of 2 of my best friends. That's one of the things that happened. 2 of my best friends, they said to me, you can't do this, you can't do that. And I told them, I said, well, y'all take care of yourself. But I got to do what I got to do. And that was a real big change in my life because I'm behind, big time. So I had to get some tutors, and thank God I had older sisters, and they were extremely smart. So they was on me too.
Yeah.
So, it was, hey, it was worth it. But but I look at the love and the things that they did to help impact my life. They were there for me. Like one of my sisters, I signed a contract with her. I said, well, when I get to the NFL, I'm gonna buy you a Mercedes. And she had that paper. After I got drafted, years later, I'm serious, she gets that paper out. I'm not joking. I signed that paper when I was like in the 10th grade or something like that. She was like a senior in high school, and she still had that paper. So I was gonna buy her Mercedes. I didn't buy her Mercedes-Benz, but I did buy her a car, okay? So I kept my promise.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd hold on to that too. That's a smart sister.
She did.
Yeah, good. But they were helping you and driving you on, and it takes a village, I guess we could say. They were supporting you, and you got good support at the school, and you were doing well on the football field, distinguishing yourself, one of the top recruits, defensive recruits in the state of South Carolina. Clemson was after you, South Carolina was after you, Pittsburgh up there.
Thad Henley was, one of our coaches was from Pittsburgh, and he had contact, and all of a sudden I'm getting a call from a guy by the name of Tony Dorsett. He was at Pitt at the time, and I think he had just won the Heisman Trophy. And he says, so listen, I understand they're gonna be setting up a visit for you to come up here to Pittsburgh. I says, yeah. He said, well, when you get up here, I'm looking forward to meeting you. He said, this is a great university and got a great program here. I think Lee Majors was the head coach at that time. He was a very big name guy.
Yeah.
And I talked to him a bit, but then, some other things went that I didn't plan on losing my father. So that changed everything.
Okay. Yeah, so Pittsburgh was, one of the top programs at that time.
Oh, yeah.
And so you were getting all this recognition, and yet you decided to go to, almost basically the hometown team, almost, a little
Right.
bit up the road a piece, but to South Carolina State, a smaller school. What was behind that decision?
Well, it was like I said, I lost my dad in 1976. We buried him on Father's Day in 1976, which is the first time they ever had a funeral at that church on a Sunday. That was against the AME. They didn't bury people on Sundays. But my dad, being the person he was, and everybody knew him and loved him. Matter of fact, I'd never seen so many white and black people came together. My dad had just as many white friends as he had black friends. So people, he was one of them guys where, he didn't look at color. That's why I never had problems with race and none of that, because we never was raised like that. And so, matter of fact, it was like they had two funerals almost, because they had to let some of the people go for some of the other people to come. And people like Tony Jordan, him and my dad were really close. Tony that owns Allstate over there. And my mom kind of like raised Tony and his brother, and so, during that time, two of the coaches came from South Carolina State 2 days before they buried my father. They checked into this little hotel over here. And all of a sudden, I'm outside the house, and I see these two coaches come up there with a station wagon, says South Carolina State University on the side, and one of my sisters says, I think those people are from South Carolina State. And so I goes over there, and it's Coach Bill Davis. He was the head recruiter at the time, and Coach Ben Blacknell, which was the defensive line coach at the time. And they came and they brought me a card and, said that my condolence and everything goes to you guys and your family from South Carolina State University. And we really sorry to hear about the loss. But they didn't talk to me nothing about football. They just talked to me about family and got a chance to meet my family, my brothers, sisters, and mom, and family members, and they were there for the funeral. And then the day after the funeral, I was sitting there with my sisters and my brother and them. And they said, all them other schools, they called, they might have sent a card, but these guys, they came down, spent 2 days, and they didn't even talk to you about football. They would talk to you more about family, and that's what Daddy is all about. And that's what we're all about, family. So even though, you say, I said I was too good to go to the little small black schools, I didn't even visit the school, okay? I'm just being honest with you. So my attitude came back. but anyway, after that and spending some time with my family and I said, I think I'm gonna go to South Carolina State and visit. So when I went up there to visit, Coach Willie Jeffrey was he's like the top salesman in the world. And I ended up going a little late, and I almost didn't sign with South Carolina State because they was not going to give me an opportunity to play my freshman year. So they were talking about redshirting me. So that was totally out. If I redshirt me, I can live with it. But if you're going to redshirt me, then I'm not coming here, period. Because I'm giving my mom my Social Security check, and I can't be in college 5 years. I can only be here 4 years and a couple of summers. Now, if you're taking my rights away, which I told him, I said, didn't this guy named Mr. Martin Luther King just died for us to have rights to vote and stuff? He looks at my mom, and my sister Eliza was there with me, and he says, well, he said, I never had nobody talk to me like Ervin is talking to me. My mom said, well, he knows what he wants. And he's just telling you what he wants, and he's telling you that if you're going to redshirt him, he's not going to sign this letter of commitment. The University of South Carolina told me, come on down the road and we'll give you a chance. So they said, I'll give you an opportunity to play, to show that you can play, and if you show me you can play, you'll play. And that's what I did. I told them, I don't want you to give me nothing. I said, if you got 11 people out there, I'm gonna be one of them.
Yeah, and it worked out.
It worked out,
With hard work. Again, that's the common theme. But
ooh, you talk about hard work.
yeah.
It was so hot and humid down there.
But you were one of the starters.
Oh, from day one.
Yeah, day one.
Yeah.
And you got in there and started, and were forced out on the football field, for sure. And then, so you started out as defensive end.
Yeah.
You switched positions.
My junior year.
Your junior year.
They moved me to outside linebacker.
Okay.
I made first team All-American. My senior year, they moved me to middle linebacker because people didn't run at me. If I was on the right side, they ran away. So they figured they would move me in the middle, and that way I could make tackles on the left or the right and up the middle. And you still made All-American. Made first team All-American, Kodak first team All-American.
Didn't work too well. It worked a little bit, but
yeah.
not too well to try to avoid you. So that tells you how impressive you were as a player at that time. So they were trying to, scheme against you, and it didn't turn out too well. So you come out two-time All-America at two different positions, and really you played three different positions.
Right.
Throughout your college career, and so now it's time for the NFL draft, and the Buffalo Bills get you in 1980.
Right.
And tell us about that situation going up.
Well,
to
I had 23 teams to come and work me out. One of the biggest things that happened to me was Chuck Noll, the head coach from the Pittsburgh Steelers and the defensive coordinator, had called me and said they wanted to work me out. And I didn't know at the time that they was looking at me as a defensive end. So they came down to Orangeburg. They told me they was gonna be in Columbia and they was gonna be coming over to Orangeburg and wanted to spend some time with me. And so anyway, during that time, Pittsburgh was a hot team. And I said, wow, Pittsburgh Steelers head coach is coming and the defensive coordinator meet with. So I'm thinking, they got linebackers, man. They got some of the best linebackers in the league at that time, So I didn't realize that they were looking at me and putting me behind L.C. Greenwood as a defensive end. So I'm over at the office, and after I worked out for them, they went over to watch some film, and they said, we want you to come over and watch some film with us. So they was over at the office, and so I got over there, and I'm looking at the films they're watching. They're watching films from my freshman year, my sophomore year. And we got through they got through watching film, and they said, Ervin, we really want to draft you, but we don't want to draft you as a linebacker. We want to draft you, we want to put some more weight on you and put you behind L.C. Greenwood with that 4.5 speed. I ran like a 4.5 40, 4.51, 4.52. I was like wide receiver, running back speed. He said, with that speed and range you got, man, you could be an all-pro defensive end. We'll put you behind L.C. Greenwood for a couple of years, put some more weight on you, and the rest will be history. And I said, Coach, I really appreciate, you want me to want to draft me and want me to be defensive end, but I want to play linebacker. And he said, well, we don't need no linebackers. He says, we got some of the best linebackers in the league. I said, yes, you do. But I said, Coach, I'm just being straight up with you. I don't want to play defensive end. And he said, well, we would love to have you in Pittsburgh because we definitely want to draft you. And 2 days later, Coach Catlin came in from Buffalo, the defensive coordinator and linebacker coach came in and worked me out. And at that time, I'd already worked out for like 23 different NFL teams and scouts. But anytime you have like a head coach come and work you out, a defensive coordinator, that says a lot. Mm-hmm. And Coach Catlin worked me out, and he told me, he says, if I got anything to do with it, you're going to be on my side of the field. So anyway, I worked out for Al Davis, and him and John Madden worked me out. They worked me out at the All-Star game in New Orleans. I played an All-Star game down in New Orleans, and they worked me out 2 days before the All-Star game. And they said, we're going to draft you as middle linebacker. And so what happened was during them time, it was, you got certain teams slipping in front of teams. So anyway, Buffalo slipped in front of them and drafted me. And so Al Davis called me up and he said, well, we missed out on you. So they drafted McMillan from Penn State and made him a middle linebacker because they wanted a big linebacker. And at that time, I was like 6'4", about 242, and ran like 4.5 speed. So, but Buffalo drafted me, and it was unbelievable. I'm sitting there the day of the draft, and I get a call because I didn't want to go to Buffalo because it was too cold. Yeah. So Coach Knox' secretary, Ms. Mary, called me up. She says, is this Ervin Parker? I said, yes, ma'am. She says, this is Mary. I'm Chuck Knox's personal secretary. We just want to let you know Coach Knox wants to speak with you. So Coach Knox got on the phone and said, hey, we just took you and looking forward for you to come on up here. We're going to make some arrangement in a day or so and bring you up here to Buffalo. And looking forward to some good things out of you. So that was, I ended up to Buffalo.
Yeah, and you've been up to the Bronx, New York in the summer, but yeah. Buffalo in the winter is a different animal, especially coming from down here.
Hey, believe me, when I got to Buffalo, the draft was in April. They brought me there the first week of May, and the lake was still frozen. People were ice fishing out there on the lake, so I didn't never see nobody ice fishing. So I asked the guy, I said, what they doing out there? What them tent doing out there? He said, oh, they're ice fishing. It says, ice fishing? He said, yeah, they cut a hole in the ice, and they be out there for a week or so, ice fishing it. I said, you got to be joking. They said, yeah, man, they're ice fishing. The lake probably don't start out until about the end of May. Wow. So that blew my mind.
It's a different kind of fishing we got down here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, much. Yeah. So it's, it's just a different view, but you fit in pretty, you acclimated pretty well up there.
Oh, yeah.
The time you were up there and were successful and got to play the position you wanted to. And that was kind of when a time in the NFL when the linebacker position started to get more momentum. People, coaches and people started paying attention.
Exactly, and I was one of the first linebacker that actually, I would flip-flop with the tight end. Wherever the tight end went, that's where I went.
Okay.
So I played against some of the best tight ends, Benny Cunningham, Dave Casper from Notre Dame, Benny from Pittsburgh, Billy Joe Dupree, Russ Francis, John Hasselback. I played against some of the best, and I pretty much covered them man to man.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
So like almost like covering a receiver out there.
Oh, yeah.
You know, big guy.
And Coach Callen was, he was saying, if your homeboy kicks your butt, he said, you catch the plane, you get on the plane with him and go back to Pittsburgh. So it was a great experience actually, and I tell people all the time, working through adversity prepared me for down the road. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and every game, maybe even every practice at that level, you're going to face adversity.
Oh yeah, because they film everything, and the thing a lot of people don't know about it is they put in the whole game plan on Wednesday. Only thing they don't put in on Wednesday is the short yardage and goal line, and that's minor stuff. So they put in the whole defensive game plan on Wednesday, and then they put it in that morning, and then you got to go out there and do it. And they got that camera up there, and if you're not up to part, you're not going to be out there. Yeah. It's like Coach said, you got to think and react at the same time.
And the coaches are watching, and of course, if you're on TV.
Oh, but without a doubt.
Everybody's watching. And so you don't want to be the guy who messes up.
Yeah, especially when it's so obvious.
You want to be the GOAT, not the scapegoat, the greatest of all time, not the
You're right.
the bad scapegoat. But so that was, you made it. I mean, you're at the top of the game. You're doing great, and you'd stay at that level for, in the league for 9 years, going to San Diego Chargers, as we said, and then finally out, a little better weather in San Diego.
Oh, big time.
and then up to Seattle, the
yeah.
Seahawks, and got a little more rain, but still, not so bad. I guess we could say, that's a long time for an NFL career. Thomas Hobbes said, life can be nasty, brutish, and short, and that's kind of, NFL can be, you can have one play where a guy clips you and you're done. Your career is over, but you lasted a good long while.
And then I ended up going up to, when I was through with Buffalo, I ended up going to Hamilton Tiger Cats.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I went to the Hamilton Tiger Cats. One of my buddies was Mike McCarthy, and he was a GM and player personnel manager, and he was with the Chargers when I was with the Chargers. And he called me up after I was pretty much, I said I wasn't going to play no more football, and he says, BluePrint, I need you. I said, what's going on? He said, I'm up ahead with the Hamilton Tiger Cats. I said, Hamilton? He said, well, that's right down the road from you, man, because that's only like about an hour or so from Buffalo. He said, a lot of people up here knows you, and man, we could work out a deal where I want to get you up here. I said, what kind of money are we talking? He said, well, what you need? I said, well, I need money, and I need y'all to eat the taxes. And so I ended up in Hamilton, and I was up there for 2 months. Yeah, I was most like a coach, player. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And so, I mean, football has taken you to interesting places for sure.
Big time.
And plus you're traveling to all these different cities during your career, but, you get to live in some places too, up in Canada, and you even went to Hong Kong, as you mentioned. And but what would you say was your biggest, I don't know if we want to say rival, but who did you most look forward to playing when you were in the NFL?
Miami Dolphins. Those were definitely our rival, Don Shula, because he was the biggest name in the NFL at the time, and Miami, and then the next big rival for us was New England, because they were in the division, and so those are rivals with the Miami Dolphins twice a year, New England twice a year, then the Jets twice a year.
Yeah, so you're button heads with those teams.
Yeah, like I got a Monday Night Football game that I did, and then I got a Jets playoff game that I look at from time to time.
Yeah. And that the divisions were smaller then. It was more.
Yeah, they only had 30 teams.
Yeah.
They didn't have the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they didn't have the Carolina Panthers. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, you really, I guess if what do they say? Something familiarity breeds contempt.
Yeah.
You get to know those rivals.
Oh, yeah.
Playing them twice a year,
It was personal.
Come back. It gets a little personal out there. But there, you have some great footage of. What was it like to sack Joe Montana?
Well, I knew Joe through Dwight Clark because they were buddies, and me and Dwight was roommates in Myrtle Beach for a summer when he was dating Miss Sean Weatherly. I think she was Miss USA, one of those big name title. And so we just went out to dinner that Friday night, me and Dwight and Joe, because they had just gotten in town that Friday night. So they said to me, he said, man, hook us up with a limo and, we're going to go out and have a good dinner. So snacking Joe, it was like, you really don't want to hit him. That's why I'm glad his center told him to duck, because I would have hit him pretty hard on that play. But, it was kind of like, he's your buddy, but it's a Bendis. You don't want to hurt him, but you want to take him down.
Yeah, you got to make sure you make the play, but that was nothing personal.
Now, playing against Dan Marino, I knew Dan because Dan used to come up to Buffalo from Pittsburgh, because Julius Dawkins was a wide receiver we drafted, and that was his best receiver for 3 years at Pittsburgh, so they were buddies. So Dan would come up to Buffalo. Every time he got a chance, he was in Buffalo. So I knew him on a
more personal level as
right.
well. So great. Miami Dolphins quarterback Dan Marino and Joe Montana, of course, San Francisco 49ers, and Dwight Clark, the tight end. Who played
well, actually, he was like a slot back. He don't want to be called tight end. Because he don't block. Funny. He wasn't blocking too much, but anyway, yeah.
Yeah, he liked to catch.
Oh, yeah.
That's interesting. Well, yeah, so you made all these connections. That's another thing in your time in the league. You went to all these places, made all these connections. What else would you say? It's not nobody plays football forever, although we were talking before we went on air, Tom Brady seems to be trying. He's talking about playing until age 50 or something.
The GM told me he could play to age 50.
If he keeps it up.
And knowing Tom, I know he's going to play to age 45.
Yeah. So, but, besides that, it's usually careers don't last they usually don't last as long as yours.
3 to 4 years.
Yeah, that's it.
Most of the time for most people, 3 to 4 years.
So you had a long career, and what else did you take away? What are some of the main things that
well, the relationships that I built with the guys in Buffalo, they're like brothers still. Mm-hmm. I talk to them all the time, and the guys in San Diego and the guys in Seattle. So it's kind of like and then on top of that, you meet people, you develop relationship. Like I have a play mom in Seattle that's Irish, and she's 89, and so I got to talk to her on Mother's Day. And then her husband is Mexican, he's 87, and so you develop relationship with people that are not your blood, but they have relationship like they're your blood. So the camaraderie that you meet with the people in the city is a lifetime. It's a lifetime.
Yeah, so that definitely carries forward, and we're gonna have a couple more sessions that feature you, and you're gonna go through your 10 principles of leadership. But and this is drawn from your BluePrint Leadership Academy, but something I forgot along the way was even to ask you, where'd that nickname come from?
Coach James Carson, he was the defensive coordinator in 1976 at South Carolina State and the defensive line coach. And he was talking to some of the other coaches when I got there, and the fact that I was hitting people and sending them to the trainer, that he gave me that name BluePrint. And he left several years after I'd gotten drafted, and he went back to Jackson State, where Deion Sanders is at now, because he was from Jacksonville, Mississippi, and he had played ball there. And he was the new head coach there at Jackson State. So we kept in contact, and he died a little later on of cancer. But Coach James Carson gave me that name, the BluePrint, because I used to hit people so hard I'd leave a print on them.
Yeah. So that it's it's a great kind of metaphor for what you've done.
Yeah, it kind of followed me since 1976.
Yeah, you made your mark on the world. We can say you print on the world. You left a mark, but you're also using it for.
Yeah.
It's a blueprint. You have a plan.
Exactly. We have a life skill
for,
plan, and we work with the young men and young ladies on life skills and self-esteem and setting goals, reaching goals, attitude, and all those things. It's really, this coming November the 30th will be 20 years.
Wow.
Since we started BluePrint Leadership Academy.
Okay, so that's 30 years, and I noticed you mentioned attitude already. Your attitude and changing it and getting rid of the bad attitude.
You better believe it. Your attitude can take you places that money can't.
And
a good attitude.
You know, I've got the
10 principles for success, yes.
Of the 10 principles here. You'll go into more depth and flesh them out with stories, bring them to life for us. But I noticed principle number 1, though, is attitude.
Yes.
You know, that it seems like a lot of what you're saying is that everything else kind of flows from that attitude.
Well, when you look at your life, I don't care what you do, your attitude is going to reflect with your faith. And, for as you moving forward in life, those two things, if you keep them up top, your faith and your attitude, you can pretty much move down the road, and be successful.
And having, the examples you gave early on, having a bad attitude, it's really effective at making sure you get in your own way. It's 100% effective in failing.
Exactly.
But having a good attitude, you may not, with the Bills, you didn't win every game, you didn't win every championship, of course, but if you have a bad attitude, you're probably kind of guaranteeing failure. If you have
Absolutely.
a good attitude, you're giving yourself a chance, a good chance.
I tell people that all the time. It's the way you receive, the way you respond to a situation that dictates your attitude.
And so that's, you carry it forward from sports into your life and into trying to teach young women, young men these principles. But a lot of it starts with attitude, which is a good lesson for not just the young folks, but all of us.
Yeah, that's true.
It's every stage of life. You got to keep that in mind. But that's we'll talk more about these principles.
Okay.
We'll split them up so that it's
okay. Sounds good.
And here's some more of these, stories from Ervin BluePrint Parker. So we'll have a couple more in this series, and we're really looking forward to you revisiting us.
Same here. I enjoy it.
Yeah, I want
to thank you.
Great start. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much for being here. We really appreciate it. And I'm a hat fan. I have to give I usually have a hat with me, but I have to give a tip of the hat to your hat. That's a great look.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for being here, Mr. Parker, and thank y'all for being here with us. And we hope you'll rejoin us for the next 2 segments. Have a good one.
Thank you.